Before we do PNF stretches, I want to talk about stretching in general and some basic principles about stretching. First off, we want to do a good client history with our client and make sure that we're not going to stretch any area where there's been a recent strain or sprain. Because if a muscle's been torn and we go to stretch it, it can just aggravate the tear. Now, we also want to make sure that whatever area we're going to stretch, that we warm up first with some massage before we stretch. And then we ask for feedback. I want you to let me know, Benny, when this is far enough. And we go slowly, paying attention to the nonverbal feedback that we get as well. That's good there. Okay. Once we get to the point of maximum stretch, we hold the stretch for at least 6 to 10 seconds, because that's where most of the benefit comes. And then after we've held it for that long, we come back out slowly. And it's important to release the stretch slowly, otherwise the muscle can tighten up again. And it's important never to do what we call ballistic stretching, where you bounce someone into the stretch, because that can tear muscle fibers. We also don't do stretches after a recent injury, such as a sprain or a strain, because it can aggravate the injury. And we're careful not to do intensive stretches, such as PNF stretches, in either pre- or post-event massage, as it can be too intense just before an athletic event or after an athletic event. It can aggravate problems. One of the most valuable sports massage techniques is PNF stretches. PNF stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. And the way these stretches work are by fatiguing the muscle so that you're able to stretch it further. Let me show you how this works with the hamstrings. First off, we want to make sure that the muscles have been massaged some first and warmed up. You never want to stretch a muscle without it being warmed up first. We're going to first do just a general hamstring stretch, just to see Benny's flexibility. With this, I have my hand proximal to the knee to make sure the knee doesn't bend. Now tell me when that's far enough.
That's good.
Okay. We go into the stretch slowly. We hold the stretch at least 6 to 10 seconds, because that's where most of the good happens. And then we come out of the stretch slowly. And you can see there that Benny's leg moved to about 90 degrees flexion. Now for the PNF stretch, what I like to do is to bring the knee toward the shoulder and then attempt to straighten the knee. Tell me when this is far enough. Okay. Now for good body mechanics, I'll get my shoulder here and hold the knee. Now what I want you to do, Benny, is try to bring your heel toward your buttocks, only as strong as it's comfortable and only as long as it's comfortable. And I'm leaning into it so I can just put this with my body weight. If you've got a large client, you may need to hold on to the table. Now as the muscle fatigued, then I let it passively contract, and then I'm going to stretch it again. You tell me when it's far enough.
That's good.
See how it's going further this time? Now again, I want you to press your heel toward your buttocks, only as strong as is comfortable, and only as long as is comfortable. And then again, we let it passively contract, and then I'm going to stretch it out. Tell me when it's far enough.
There.
Okay, one more time. Press your heel toward your buttocks. You let it passively contract. And we'll take it to the maximum stretch once more. Tell me when that's far enough.
That's good.
Okay. I'm going to hold this for about 6 to 10 seconds. As we come out of the stretch, I can do a little rocking and vibration. And we'll go back to our original stretch that we did first time to see what difference there is now. And you tell me when this is far enough.
Good.
And you can see we've gained about 10 degrees of stretch there. PNF stretching is by far the fastest way to increase flexibility and increase stretching. Basic principles of PNF stretches are that first you stretch the muscle, get it to the maximum point of stretch. Then you have the client resist. And I like to say as strong as is comfortable and as long as is comfortable. In some books, they like to quantify it, saying to have the athlete use 80% of their strength for 6 to 10 seconds. I don't like doing it by numbers. The idea is to fatigue the muscle, so they do it as strong as is comfortable without trying to overpower you. And as long as is comfortable, that works. Then after the muscle fatigues, and you can feel it let go, then it's very important to let the muscle passively contract. You don't want to take it into further stretch immediately after they've been doing an isometric contraction. So I take them out of the stretch so that the muscle can contract, because that's what it's been trying to do. And then I'll stretch them a little further, and usually it'll go further each time that you do it. And I like doing it 2 or 3 times with each muscle group. The quadriceps muscle group on the front of the thigh does hip flexion and knee extension. So the way that we're going to stretch that is first put one hand on the sacrum, pressing toward the feet, pressing inferiorly. Then the other hand will take and bring the heel toward the buttocks. Now I want you to tell me, Benny, when this is far enough. Okay. I have the hand on the sacrum to isolate the stretch so it doesn't hurt her low back. Now what I want you to do, Benny, is try to extend your knee against my resistance, only as strong as is comfortable. And only as long as it's comfortable. So then as it fatigues, then we let the muscle passively contract, and then we can stretch it again. I want you to tell me when this is far enough. Okay. Now again, I want you to contract the muscle only as strong as it's comfortable, and only as long as it's comfortable. And it fatigued again, so we let it passively contract, and we'll stretch it one more time. You can tell me when this is far enough. Okay? Now, if the heel should go all the way to the buttocks, there's a more advanced stretch that you can do. For this, what I will do is raise the client's knee and put my knee under their knee. For this stretch, it's very essential to have the pressure on the sacrum so that you can isolate the stretch to the hip and the quadriceps. Tell me when this is far enough. Now you can do a PNF stretch from this position as well. So what I want you to do is try to straighten your knee against my resistance. And when it fatigues, we let it passively contract. And then we stretch it one more time. Tell me when that's far enough. Good. So that's how we can stretch out the quads. Afterwards, I like to shake it just a little bit, let the muscle repattern, and slowly let it stretch out again. The psoas muscle is one of our primary hip flexors. It goes from the bodies of the lumbar vertebrae down to the lesser trochanter of the femur. And the way that we stretch that is by hyperextending the hip. What we'll do is have Benny slide over to the edge of the table. Then you bring one knee toward the chest, and I need you to slide just a little further this way so your hip is off the edge of the table. And then on her right leg, I'm going to press her knee down toward the floor. And tell me when that's far enough. Okay. Now, what I want you to do, Benny, is to press your right knee up toward the ceiling against my resistance. Only as strong as it's comfortable, and only for as long. As it fatigues, then we can let it passively contract, and then we can stretch it out again. Now, it's very important that Benny keep her left knee up toward her chest, because that's what helps protect her low back. Now again, tell me when this is far enough. Okay. And again, press your knee up toward the ceiling against resistance. And then as it fatigues, we let it passively contract. And we'll stretch it out one more time. And tell me when it's far enough. Okay, and then this last stretch, we're just going to hold the stretch for a little bit, for about 6 to 10 seconds. And then we'll bring your leg up and lay back on the table. Incidentally, when the psoas is tight, people often will feel like a stitching pain right around the inguinal ligament, and this technique works very well at relieving pain in this area. The adductor muscle group on the inside of the thigh works to pull the legs together, so it's used a lot in horseback riding, in swimming, and also using the thigh master. And the way that we'll stretch this is to put the client into what I call a frog leg position, like this, where the feet are together, and I'm gently going to press the knees toward the floor. You tell me when that's far enough, Benny.
That's good.
Okay. Now, what I want you to do is try to bring your knees together against my resistance, but only as strong as is comfortable. And as it fatigues, it's important that I allow muscle to contract, and then slowly stretch it out again. Now again, tell me when this is far enough. Okay? And again, try to bring your knees together against resistance. And then we let it passively contract. And then stretch it out again. Good. I'm just going to hold that for 6 or 10 seconds. And then we'll bring your legs back like this. The piriformis muscle is the deep lateral rotator in the hip that is often involved with sciatic pain because it overlies the sciatic nerve. One way that we can stretch this is to put Benny's foot opposite her other knee and stretch the leg out this way. Now, it'll be hard to find a limit on this stretch. You could practically roll the person off the table, so you just take it as far as it's comfortable. And then what I want you to do, Benny, is to press your knee back toward me against my resistance, only as strong as is comfortable, and only as long as it's comfortable. Then we let it passively contract, and then we can stretch it again. Tell me when it's good, okay? And again, press it back toward me, only as strong as is comfortable. Now, this is also working some of the rotators in the erector spinae group around the spine. It doesn't really isolate the piriformis, but it works all the rotators. But that's fine. Now, tell me when it's far enough. And this last time, we're just going to hold the stretch. And we'll hold the stretch for about 6 to 10 seconds. And then, as we come out of the stretch, we'll just do a little rocking and vibration so the muscle can remain relaxed. Pectoralis major muscle goes from the sternum and the clavicle out to the humerus, and its action is going to be to draw the arm across the chest. So it'll be involved a lot in bench presses and in push-ups. Now, the way we'll stretch this on Benny is to bring her arms up like this and back, only as far as is comfortable. We want to be careful not to dislocate the shoulders. Tell me when that's far enough.
That's good.
Okay. Now, what I want you to do, Benny, is try to bring your elbows together in front. Okay. As it fatigues, we let it passively contract and then re-stretch. Again, tell me when it's far enough.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, try to bring your elbows together in front. You let it passively contract, re-stretch, and this time we're just going to stretch. Is that far enough? Okay. Now, for the pectoralis major muscle, we can do 3 different positions. To get the lower fibers, we can raise the elbows up like this. To get the middle fibers, we can have the upper arms parallel with the floor. And to get the upper fibers, we can have the elbows lower. And we can do the stretch, the PNF stretch, from any of these positions. Wrist and finger extensors here are often involved in tennis elbow, particularly near where they attach at the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. And the technique I'll show for PNF stretch can help with tennis elbow. We'll also be showing more about tennis elbow later on in the video when we talk about specific sports injuries. Now, to stretch the extensors, what we do is hold the arm in a flexed position at the elbow and also flexed at the wrist. And to do the PNF stretch, what I'm going to ask Benny to do is to try to extend the wrist, but also to try to supinate at the same time. And I'm going to resist both those motions. So go ahead, only as strong as is comfortable. And then we let that action happen, and then stretch it again. Okay. And this time we'll just hold it in a stretched position. And this works to help stretch out the extensors. There are several different PNF stretches that we can do with the neck. For this, I like to sit down. First one we're going to do is with rotation. Some people have a limitation with how far they can rotate their head and their neck. So I'll start by rotating Benny's head toward the right. Let me know when that's far enough. Then I place my hand across the side of the head like this, and what I want you to do, Benny, is try to rotate your head back to the midline against my resistance, only as strong as is comfortable. As it fatigues, we let it passively contract, and then I'm going to rotate it again. Tell me when that's far enough. Okay, now again, try to bring it back to the midline, only as strong as is comfortable. Fatigues, we let it come back, and then I'm going to finish with the stretch. Tell me when it's far enough. And we hold this 6 to 10 seconds. And back. And that can help to increase range of motion with rotation. Now another one we can do is with lateral flexion, where we bring the ear toward the shoulder, press on one side of the head and on the shoulder, only as far as is comfortable. Is that as far as it goes? Okay. Now what I want you to do is try to bring your head back to the midline, only as strong as is comfortable. And only for as long as it's comfortable. Once it fatigues, I bring the head back so the muscles can passively contract, and then we'll stretch it. It may go a little further this time. Tell me when that's far enough. Okay. Now again, try to bring your head back to the midline, only as strong as is comfortable. As it fatigues, and we can let it passively contract. And I'm going to stretch it one last time. Tell me when that's far enough. And we'll hold it for 6 to 10 seconds, just to get the benefit of the stretch. And of course, we would repeat these on the other side. Now there's one other technique I like to do that's good just for general relaxation of all the neck muscles, and that is to press the client's shoulders inferiorly like this. And then what I want you to do, Benny, is to press your shoulders up toward me against my resistance. And then as the muscles fatigue, we let the shoulders come up and then press them down. And this can help to relax all the muscles in the neck. Latissimus dorsi is a superficial back muscle that goes from the low back, the lumbar vertebrae, up to the front of the humerus, and its action is to do adduction, or drawing the arm in toward the body. The way we stretch this muscle is to bring the arms up overhead, bringing the upper arms in toward the ears. Tell me when that's far enough.
That's good.
And then I'm going to hold your arms here, and what I want you to do, Benny, is try to bring your arms back down to your sides against my resistance, only as strong as is comfortable. And then as the muscles fatigue, we can let the muscles passively contract. And then re-stretch. And again, tell me when.
That's good.
Okay. Now I want you to contract. And it fatigues, so we let it passively contract. And I like to finish with a stretch like this. So to review the basic principles of PNF stretches. There also are ways to do PNF stretches on yourself. I'm going to start first with the psoas PNF stretch. And the way people typically stretch their own psoas is by hyperextending the hip like this. And you'll see runners do this stretch a lot. To do it as a PNF stretch, put your knee on the floor and stretch forward so that you're hyperextending. And then for the resistance phase, you can push your knee into the floor as hard as you can comfortably. When the muscle fatigues, you can back off from the stretch, let it contract. And then you can stretch again, this time maybe going a little further. And again, press the knee into the floor. And then back out. And then stretch again. And this works very well at stretching the muscle further. For a hamstring PNF stretch on yourself, you can start out in a half kneeling position, kneeling on one knee, having the other leg straight forward, and then you stretch forward, attempting to touch your toes. Then for the resistance phase, you can press your foot into the floor as hard as you can comfortably, as long as you can. When it fatigues, you can back out from the stretch, and then you can stretch again, and this time it's easier to go further.